We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices, I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. Geordies here, Geordies there. A day earlier, things been swapped around this week. Good evening to George, to Kev, to Mitch, to Stu, and to Al Walid, and to you. As always, an hour chatting about Newcastle United and what is in the headlines. And going to look back, I guess, on the game with the three on the bottom, first of all, because we haven't had a chance, well, seeing what we have with the lads on the professionals. But just, Al Walid, we'll come to you, sorry. Just give us your review on the game on the weekend before I come to you with a question which I haven't prepped you on. So give us your views on the game of the weekend. 3-0 win, Al Walid.
This is not a surprise. It was a great game for Newcastle. I always say that Newcastle, when we have more of the players ready and rested enough and ready 100%, they will do the best they can. And if you look at the schedule, at the table, you can feel that still there is, I think, 11 more rounds. So I think we really can have European seat. The game actually was great, and I hope this will continue. This is my worry. I don't want one game get 3 points and the other game have difficulties. But it was really great, and it was really great game, and really we need that result.
Yeah, big result for Newcastle over the weekend. The 3-0 win, of course, sets us up nicely for the 6-pointer on Monday night against Chelsea. Okay, George, first question I'm going to ask you is about Kieran Trippier. He was awarded the North East Football Writers Award on Sunday, and it's a prestigious award amongst the journalistic circles. All the guys and lady journalists get together and they vote, and it's quite a prestigious one, and it's a big trophy, to be fair. But Kieran Trippier won it, the Football Writers Association player, Northeast Player of the Year. And he follows in the footsteps of the likes of Mickey Quinn, Gaza. Fantastic to see, and great interviews coming out of there. But the question I'm going to ask George is, how important has Kieran Trippier been to Newcastle United over this last 2 years?
Well, Steve, I make no secret of the fact I think he's been very important. Let's face it. When we approached him, he was playing in a European Championship playing team. To come to a team that was staring a really nasty, horrible relegation in the face. I mean, we looked like we might go down with the lowest points ever. That's how bad we were. And he took a chance. He was persuaded by our owners that there was something special happening here, and persuaded enough to come. And for me, that made him, that already made him quite a hero for me. For somebody in his position, current England international. I mean, he was really risking quite a lot if it didn't work out. But it has worked out, and he's demonstrated so much professionalism and so much skill as a player. I mean, we joke about Miggy only having one foot. Well, you can never say that about Kieran Trippier. I mean, on Saturday there were 3 times he received a very bad ball on his so-called wrong side, and he did it with aplomb, as they say in the game, and ideal demonstration for any younger people who are watching as to how to cope with your so-called wrong side. As it happens, during the game, of course, he did get skinned a couple of times on his side. If that had been Dan Burn, it'd have been howling for him to be taken off. But because it was Trippier, he wasn't. The other thing is his immense impact both on and off the field at Newcastle United. On the field, any issue at all with the players, any issue with the referee, who's first there? Kieran. Unless the club captain's on the pitch, it's always Kieran Trippier who sorts things out, gets things going, and he's the one who always demonstrates to me he's streetwise. How can I demonstrate that? Oh, the penalty incident at Nottingham Forest last year, where they were all hanging around and talking to people about different things and pushing and shoving, and he walked around with a ball as though he was going to take the kick, and the goalkeeper obviously had his mind made up that that's who was going to take it, and he put the ball down, and who took it? Isak stuck it in the back of the net, to the goalkeeper still standing there wondering where the hell Trippier was. So they're all streetwise things that he brings to it. Off the pitch, when there's new players coming in, who do you get the photograph in the dressing room saying hello, welcome, do this, do that? It's been him, So it isn't just a playing impact. It's been a total impact of a true professional, which is what he is. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And just love seeing the guy play. And any doubt about his way, you can't have any doubt about his players. For a right fullback to have the most assists in Europe, not just in the Football League, but in Europe, says it all. He wears his heart on his sleeve. That's the other thing. He's bought into Newcastle United. That's how he got into the row with the people at Bournemouth after that horrible match we had. He was determined. He wanted his say. Well, I'll take up the whole hour doing sit and talk about Kieran Trippier. No, fantastic, Steve. We couldn't, and a very worthy winner to add to that trophy, in my view.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more, George. If you've got a question for George halfway through, we'll do Ask George tonight. So get your questions in if you've got a special one for George, and we will be doing another Ask George show. George is happy to do it, so we will find a date and we will fit it in. But Kev, yeah, great to see Kieran Trippier, land this big trophy. It's well respected in the area. It's gone on for many, many years now. Just your little tribute and how important this guy's been to Newcastle's cause in the first 2 years of this ownership and under Eddie Howe's stewardship.
Well, he's just integral to the whole process moving forward. He was the first one in. So what does that say about him as a player first? And he has the desire and drive to pull the club out of the mire, if you will, away from a relegation zone to keep a team in the Premier League. Plus, it was from a personal level that he wanted to get back into English football. Not that he was playing poorly in Spain or whatever, but there was other motives there to come back and play in the north of England, where I think he's quite happy at home with it, because that's pretty much he's from Manchester, Bury area anyway. So, yeah, he's been leader on and off, like George said, and yes, sometimes the performances of late haven't been fantastic, but he's a footballer. That's what he goes through that, and it is a high performance level that you've got to overcome, and you have to get through difficult periods within your career. And he's done that right from I've listened to certain the high performance podcasts and the things that he had to go through, not even getting into the Manchester City setup, going finding his way in different other teams, and then learning and growing and developing as a man, and all of those things have now come to the fore when he's been at Newcastle United. So I literally tip my hat to him and say congratulations, well done, and hopefully again he can develop the younger players in and around him to push on next season.
Yeah, it's still a great watch, that podcast that you mentioned there. It's always worth a revisit every now and then. Yeah, Mitch, good evening. Kieran Trippier, great player. Come under a bit of the microscope this season, a bit of criticism. We went through that little dodgy spell where we went out of the Champions League and went out to the Carabao Cup, and we all thought another trip to Wembley was on the cards in that competition. But apart from that blip, he's just been superb, hasn't he? A captain on and off the pitch.
And he didn't hide, and nor did he try to hide. And I think that's important too. I think that shows the kind of quality of the individual. And don't underestimate the club's response to a dalliance with Bayern Munich in the January transfer window. If we want to state that we are one of the biggest clubs in Europe eventually, we have to think like a big club and act like a big club, and we have to show our players that we are prepared to match and indeed better their ambitions, and to turn around and resist Bayern Munich. Because I've said this before, I don't think there's another owner or chairman in Newcastle United in my lifetime who wouldn't have just pocketed the cash off Bayern Munich and sent Trippier on his way, whether he wanted to go or not. And I'm sorry, it must have been tempting for Trippier. I think we've got to allow him that. With people there that he knows, with a setup where he could go and have a last hurrah, possibly. But I think keeping him's important as a statement, not just to Trippier, but to everybody else and to the rest of the football world, to say you're not going to come and just bully us around. We're building plans here, and I'm quite sure keeping Trippier involved in any way, shape or form going forward, even after his playing career, I think might be on people's minds at the club. Look at what he did when he broke his foot. He was still at every game on his crutches. He was still around the dressing room. Find it interesting as the dust settles on everything this week. Joe Linton back in the dressing room whilst out injured. Now amidst rumours of his contract being settled and sorted all of a sudden. And that's the kind of thing that comes from having a leader like Trippier around who did exactly that when he had a broken foot and we were in a hole. He wanted to show he was around for his teammates and show he was around for everyone. I find it interesting to see how they're keeping Tonali integrated with the squad, and he's involved in nearly everything they do on social media with the Premier League at the minute. That must be coming from somewhere, and that's not just the manager. That needs the leadership team around them. And so for me, he's earned that accolade from the regional sports writers, not just because of what he's done on the pitch, but because of what he brings as an individual to Newcastle United. And long may that continue as it can.
Stu, I think we've paid Kieran Trippier lots of superlatives on various shows that we've done over the years, but just to see him with an award, it'd be great, wouldn't it, to swap that trophy in his hand for a real domestic trophy at the end of the season?
Absolutely. I was going to mention what Mitch said there regarding his commitment to the cause when he got his first injury, but I wrote it down with my big pencil, you see. But now I've got a big eraser on it so I can rub out so I don't have to repeat the same thing. He has been instrumental in our eyes. It's easy to heap praise on one person, but he's been a big part of it as much as anyhow has. He's been the leader of the players. He's been professional. The players that were already there, they've looked at him as he's came in as a regular international and thinking, well, what difference is he to us? And I think he's helped raise the collective of the squad with them thinking, well, look at his dedication. That's what we need to do to get that extra % better. And I think he's set the examples that others have followed. And I think as a club, we've seen the benefit. You know, there's been countless players that have improved, not just through the coaching, but through people like him coming in, through people like Bruno coming in. And these ones at the start have been, I use the word instrumental, but the way they embraced the challenge and took it on. And I think he deserves every success he gets, and hopefully he gets, as you said, domestic trophies with us, and hopefully this season as well. Before we pass on, there's one thing, you know, I watch a lot of the other shows, and I try not to comment, you know, because it's a bit, like getting into the chat. It's no, but if it's another show, it's not my chat. But one thing I want to say is, I think when I use the word instrumental, and sometimes we've got people that don't get mentioned, and I just want to say I think the mods do a fantastic job. They're watching every single show that you put out, Stephen, and I think they do a great job. So the mods are the Kieran Trippier of these shows. I think they're the ones that go without the praise. They're not scoring all the goals. They're not dominating midfield, but they do a great job. So I just thought I'd put that out there today.
No, I think that's fantastic, and I mean, you know, I do my best to thank the likes of Jules and Tom and everyone else in the chat, Mozer, of course, and you know, we've given a couple of people spanners over the course of the time that the channel's been on. Mark Byers is often in the chat as well when he's not working, and you know, big shout out to all you guys, because you know you do us a favor. You do a great job, and it's testament to the likes of you, and I think Don's in there tonight. A big shout out to Don as well, along with Tom. It's people like yourselves who, you know, keep the show going, and it really does. It helps, because I think I've seen a lot of the criticism in other chats, and I know what happens in the other chats. But we've worked hard collectively to stop it in here. So yeah, thanks, and it's a great tribute that. So thanks for that, Stu. Al-Walid, Kieran Trippier, a wonderful player for club and country, and just nice to see him getting a personal reward.
Of course, Steve, and I hope, inshallah, hopefully he will lift first cup for Newcastle soon. I like Kieran Trippier, as you all lads. I like always when he gets into the pitch, he's like raising his head high and give the pride for Newcastle, and give the confidence for the team just when he getting into the team to the field. It was difficult season with all this competition, a lot of injuries, the suspensions and stuff. But with all this, the team still solid, and this not happen without a real captain. We still have the chance to have a European seat. We are not that far from the 5th position, and really happy for him. He deserves it, and as I said, hopefully he will be the first since long time, first cup holder, inshallah, soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Shalom, as you say. Jules asks a question, George. She says, thoughts on the Bournemouth director of football leaving at the end of the season after 10 years at the club? News coming out of Bournemouth that potentially could happen, and people with raised eyebrows thinking, I wonder whether he could end up at Newcastle.
I'd be very surprised if he does. For me, it's just the director of Bournemouth leaving. I can't see him coming Newcastle United's way. It depends on lots of things, but no, I'd be very surprised if he's got the profile that Newcastle United need.
Yeah, Kev, it's it could be a merry-go-round. There's talk of Steve Nixon potentially taking the job on the Dan Ashworth leaves behind, and Eddie Howe's nephew, being promoted up the ranks, and potentially just moving chess pieces on a chessboard at Newcastle rather than appointing somebody new.
Well, yeah, football is merry-go-round, regardless what part of the season it is, who's leaving where. Again, look, I haven't heard the news that this is the first I've heard of it. Look, I don't know too much about him, to be perfectly honest. So if he is employed by Newcastle United. I wish him well. I hope he does what he's supposed to do. If not, well, good luck to him, and he'll find another club. And I'm sure there's probably better out there for Newcastle United. I'll just say that. But yeah, so football's football. If Steve Nixon gets it, he gets it. If Eddie Howe's nephew gets promoted, they get promoted throughout the football club. That's just how it works. It's just part of the football business and the nature behind any first team squad or any club, essentially. Jobs for mates, mates know mates, people know people, talk to people about this and that and the other, whatever. So look, if he joins, he joins. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I think there's bigger fish out there for us to go catch.
Yeah, I mean, this really comes. The question comes, Mitch, from Richard Hughes, leaving, announcing that he's going to leave Bournemouth. I mean, it's not surprising that Newcastle fans, on social media would speculate maybe he's coming to Newcastle because of the Eddie Howe connection.
And there's been as much speculation that he might be going to Liverpool or Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's nailed on. For me, we've had someone in a director of football role in a relationship that's been, I think, quite clearly now, we can say with the beauty of hindsight, totally dysfunctional. And that's been a hindrance. That's not been a help at all. As a club, we need to be functional. And so if bringing him in makes things functional, then happy days. I mean, how it works, he's an interesting player with an interesting track record, brought up in Italy, come through, I think, Atalanta youth system, then went to Arsenal and then went to Bournemouth from there. And I think that's an interesting pathway and might explain why he's more comfortable taking one of those more technical roles, because he's been brought up with that from day one in his football experience. But I think Newcastle United will appoint the right people for the right job, and I think they'll learn the lesson from what we've had to put up with over the last 18 months, which is quite clearly two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that were never going to fit together. And so I'd rather have somebody in a role who can complement and drive the whole back room to be better, than worry about who he is and who he likes a pint with on a Sunday and who his mates are. It'll be performance related, and if somebody like him comes in, we'll start making signings again. We'll start signing up players to contracts better again, and we'll look more like a functional football club. I don't think anybody's going to complain of it.
No, definitely not. His title, Stu, at Bournemouth was technical director. He's been there since 2016, but as Mitch says, he's been linked with a few other clubs as well.
It could be a case of he's seen what's happened with Ashworth and thought, well, let's not go through that and I'll get my resignation in early. But that doesn't mean he's come to Newcastle. Mitch has rightly said he's linked with other clubs and he is sought after. His work is well respected in the industry. But I will disagree with what was said to Amigos, not last week, the week before, when Mitch and Steve were going through their favourites. And Lamango was the name that they kept pushing forward. I'm of the opinion, well, we know that he'd been for a couple of interviews, but what they wanted was a director of football who was going to be based in Newcastle. And that wasn't appealing to Malango, and that what was cited at the time, I think, if I'm not wrong, Mitch, was his kids were at school and he didn't want to move them. Now, obviously, like us, children get older, and that may not be the case now. But I think now he's got his feet far too much under the table with the Saudi Pro League and the position he's got and the power he's got. Strange as it might sound, it would probably be a step down to come to Newcastle just to run one club rather than run a whole league. And the fact is, he's got an open checkbook there to attract any player he can. Where at Newcastle at the moment, it'd be running on a limited budget. And he's got nothing to compare against when he's doing the Saudi Pro League. He's in a position where
Okay, Al-Walid, how important is it to have a technical director, a sporting director? And do you have any people that you would like to see in that position?
Well, Steve, it's for me, I'm not worried much about the name. I'm worried about the job description. We don't want to conflict with the manager. We don't want to hear this again. We remember how that happened with Eddie and Dan Ashworth since months ago. So I think it's the job description is matter. There is valuable and there is a good CV, a lot of good CVs for the technical director. But it should have maybe also consult Eddie Howe with this. If the club believe Eddie Howe will stay long at the club, so he must be consulted. So everyone should have his own role. And should they avoid the conflict, because I think this is something can be agreed for.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. Time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Go to their website, skipsandbins.com. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Go to their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. Go to their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com or phone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. They're a local company from Morpeth, and there are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button under the video. Click the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. If you want to help the channel financially, you can pay a one-off £25 fee. You get a cup, a scarf, a pen and a membership card and entry into the NUFC Matters monthly draw. Email john@nufcmatters.com for more details, or if you've got a smartphone, scan the QR code now and it takes you straight to the membership pack. We also support the food bank on this channel go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you'll find the matchday bucket. You can make a donation virtually today. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. We also do events during the year. NUFC Matters Live will be at the O2 City Hall on Friday, the 2nd of August, for an evening with Rob Lee, one night in Antwerp. Tickets start at £15 and you can get them from ticketmaster.co.uk. An evening with the entertainers takes place on Friday, the 24th of January 2025 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House in Newcastle. Telephone 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk to buy tickets today. You can also catch me on the North East Footy Breakfast Show live on Toon Radio weekdays 7 till 9 a.m. on DAB, smart speakers and the toonuk.com.
And don't forget, we've got the nufc Matters auction in the chat. I've just stuck the link in there again. We've got some great stuff. We've got Keegan, we've got Waddle, we've got Beardsley, we've got Shearer, you name it, up there. Starting price £15 for some of those items to get yourself on there. The end of season due is on the 20th of July. And that is the end of season party. Superman Gibbo, Ask George, and local band Stannington will be performing. Tickets at tenner from newcastlelegends.com or nufcmatters.com. And an evening with Peter Beardsley on the 2nd of June at the Tyneside Irish Centre as well. Tickets on sale from newcastlelegends.com. And for those of you who want to know what's on tomorrow, swapped it around just because Sid and Rob are both available to do a live tomorrow at 6. I've got a couple of things I need to do as well during the day, so suits me better to do it at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So get yourselves on to Talk of the Tune tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. But on Geordies here, Geordies there, we do try to ask George. Okay, Philip was in with this one. Ask George, would he like to see an all-Brazilian midfield, as Bruno has been singing to his mate Paqueta again, and it looks like J7 will sign a new contract soon. So would you like to see Paqueta come to Newcastle, George?
No, the difference between the other two that we've got is that they're very consistent. Where I've seen a Paqueta on TV is that this week he'll be absolutely brilliant, next week he'll be absolutely awful. And it may be that mixed with the other two, he would be great every week. But no, I can see why we didn't pick him up in the first place, because everybody assumed when they seen him playing football in Bruno's back garden that he would be coming. Well, it didn't happen, and I'm not entirely surprised. As I say, brilliant one week, next week absolutely awful. Doing schoolboy mistakes sometimes, and no, no, I think that's a Brazil nut too far for me, I'm afraid.
Tom Dixon says, can you ask George, who would he like to see sign a new contract at Newcastle?
In the current squad?
Yeah.
Well, surely some of the star players that have been outperforming are entitled to something. For example, they've done Bruno. That Amanda's going to do. Isn't it amazing that Amanda Staveley gets involved only a couple of weeks after Ashworth's gone, and Joe Linton's situation sorted out? I just find that I don't think that's a coincidence. We've got to tie down some of the younger ones that are playing out of their skin. We've got to tie them down. For example, I think on the performance we've seen so far, Livramento's up for an upgrade, I think, by the end of the season, I would have thought. And they've got to be tying Botman down. I mean, his age, he's bound to be in the minds of other European clubs at his age. So we need to get him nailed down fast. And some of the even younger ones, they've already made a big step with Lewis Miley. There's some others that have been hanging around that we need to take care of. If Anderson's fully fit again, then I think he needs to. We need to tie him down as well as signing those, though. But it's going to be a hard summer for those that are going to leave, because there's got to be a raft of people going to be leaving, I think. But that's where I would leave it at the moment. But with there's one or two we need to tie down, particularly like Botman, who very good, very young, and bound to be interested in other clubs.
Stephen Kennedy says, can you ask George, the Avengers, Emma Peel, Tara King, or Kathy Gale, which one floated your boat?
Oh, Emma Peel, I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise, George. Dave says, ask George, increase capacity a small amount and stay in situ, or increase capacity greatly and move?
The greatly one bothers me slightly. It would be it sounds great to have a stadium of 80,000. But the first time it's half empty, it wouldn't sound great at all. I'd rather have a full 60,000 than a half empty 80,000, if that's not too obscure. Yeah, if we can do it where we are and increase the capacity, I'd be delighted. But if it can't be done, then we've got to bite the bullet. And I see there's plans being floated around today about shifting it into the Leazes Park, and the Leazes Park guys not unhappy about it. Well, I did say to you a while ago, the one thing in my favour at the moment is they're all hard up. The council's hard up, the university's hard up, Leazes Park people are hard up, and what we got lots of? Money. So it may be just in our favour that a slight move into the park might do the trick. And I wouldn't be unhappy about that because it's not too far away. But my own preference, increased capacity where we are, a small amount rather than a huge amount. Because I say 80,000 sounds great, but the first time it's half empty, it wouldn't sound great then.
Last question for Barry. Ask George, you have mentioned before about playing for Ward Jackie. He was a legend. Did he give you or any youngsters any advice?
Yes, I've told Steve this privately. You can imagine, I'm a 15-year-old, just started playing for the club from school, and I go to St James's to be told which team I'm going to play in. And Benny Craig, one of the coaches that looked after the kids, said to us, the A team needs a left back, and I've told them, I'm bringing you. And so he took us down North Road and Wallsend, and I walked into the dressing room. Now, I didn't even remember who was managing the A team at the time. And in I walked with Benny Smith. Craig says, here, Jackie, here's your left back. Well, it was bloody Jackie Milburn. I couldn't speak for half an hour, never mind play football, for God's sake, standing in front of me hero. And within seconds, he was telling us what he thought and all that. And with this only one touch of the ball, he was able to say, oh, you're left back, but you're right-sided. I mean, yeah, okay. But after that, he was a dream, and he spent nearly half an hour with me after the game, telling me, do this, do that, think about this, George, think about that, George. And his brogue, his Asherton brogue, as he called it, was lovely and so soft and tender. Just a great man, a superman as well as a super footballer. And also, I've told Steve, I've got a newspaper cutting from the local paper that I keep because it says some nice things about me. Well, it was much later that the same Benny Craig told me, he said to me, did you like what was written in the paper about you, George? I said, it was fantastic. My family's over the moon. And he says, well, Jackie made sure that went in. So his impression was that Jackie had told the reporter, hey, I want that special mention in for George. So, yes, I mean, who wouldn't be proud of that half hour? I mean, it just is so great and such a lovely man. I played a couple more games for the A team when he was there. And always so lovely. Such a nice guy. Such a lovely guy. So there you go.
That's Ask George tonight. Barry says, George, you're my true Geordie legend. I can't wait to see you at the end of season 2. Very nice of you, Barry.
Well, thank you very much, Barry.
Okay, where do we go next? Jules made a point as well about the Brazilians. If we signed a Paqueta, if they all came from the same country, what if all three were picked to play for the national squad? That would equal no midfield or no first choice midfield.
Good point.
Is a good point indeed. And yes, David Monks, you were right to point that out. Aston Villa have posted losses today of 119 million. So don't give up on the Champions League just yet. Yeah, it's all. It's all going on at the moment, but we'll go with Mozza's question next, and we'll start with you, Al Walid, on the bottom row. So, the supercomputer has us finishing 6th above Manchester United. What are your thoughts? Is that possible? Do you think we could finish 6th, Al Walid? Are you that confident? You were the man who stood on the stage in Newcastle when all was lost and we felt we were going to get relegated, and you made sure that the Geordie people could hear you say, "We will not get relegated." So you've got a bit of a reputation for these kind of things, Al Walid.
Sound like millionaires, Steve. Now, actually, it's very hard to predict, but it's not possible. And for me, if I'm talking this logically, and to be honest, 5th position is hard because the points difference. But the 6 is very reachable, so I think it's. I think this is a smart computer, really.
All right, okay. So you're confident. You're confident, and you're next to probably one of the most confident people that's on this platform in Stu. I mean, you're a realist, Stu, but you do like a bit of a gamble as well. So. 6th place, the supercomputer's got us finishing. Is that fair? Would you say?
Yeah, not wrong with a bit of positivity. But we're in a mini league, I think, with Brighton, Man United, West Ham, and Chelsea, and we've got them all to play. So for me, it's in our own hands. If you look at them, Brighton and West Ham have got European football to contend with, whereas we don't. Man United, I think they could be going into self-destruct mode with the rumours hopefully continuing about the manager. That's going to unsettle the change room because it'll split the camp. Some will want in, some will want out. And I think Brighton, I think we'll finish 6th easily. I think Villa will fade. There's not many games left, but I think they'll fade. They've got a realistic chance of going very deep into the Europa League, and that'll probably take the focus. It's a shame because I'd rather see Villa finish above Tottenham just because it's someone outside the so-called cartel. But they're playing each other this weekend, so they both can't win. And if we can get a win at Chelsea, I think the momentum is definitely with us. And we've spoke many times with the players coming back now. There's a new zest and confidence in the team, and I can see us finishing closer to 5th than 7th, points-wise. Obviously, 6th is in the middle of both, but I can see points-wise, I think we'll be closer to 5th than 7th.
Tommy, good. Yeah, I got you. Tommy, good evening. Whoop, whoop, Tommy. There you go. That was my very best one on a Tuesday, mate. Catch us on a Friday night after the Amigos, mate. It might be a bit different. And definitely catch the lads when they're out on the drink, and I'm sure we'll all be able to do it a bit better. We might do it one day on a night out on the Malverno, Tommy, so I'll bear that in mind. Mitch, the league table at the moment, Newcastle are sitting in 8th. But, we're only 4 points off that 6th place finish that the supercomputer is predicting. It doesn't look a million miles away.
It's all in our hands, isn't it? We've got people to play who are above us. We've been consoling ourselves during the less confident times of late that we had a nice end of the season, that we had a nicer collection of fixtures than those around us. And that's probably what's reflected in that computer-based prediction as well. But it's up to us to make sure we get those points. We know we're capable of going on a run. Anytime. We did it when Howe first come in to save our skin. We did it last year. We went through a phenomenal run. And that was part of the platform that we built the whole league season on. Laws of averages would suggest we're due one this season. It's the age-old thing, though. The football's not played on a computer; it's played on grass, and we've got to earn those points. We've got to earn the right to claim those points. We do have, like I touched on, a favourable fixtures list. We've got players coming back from injury seemingly every week now, so that becomes less of an excuse, and it's in our hands. We know we can do that. We know quite comfortably we could go on a 8, 9, 10 match unbeaten run. It's very doable. Go on a run like that, European place of some sort is not even in doubt. So over to you, lads. How badly do you want it? And show how badly you want it, because I think that would get a few chins off the floor. We're still reeling from basically a disastrous 10-day period in December. And we're still really dusting ourselves down from that in many ways. And that's where we've talked about Trippier's leadership. We've talked about Bruno's influence in the middle. We need all of these things to come together. But when they do, we know what we're capable of. They know what they're capable of. And it would make a very interesting end to the season.
Kev, where do you see us finishing? The supercomputer says 6th. Is it hedging its bets? Is it being unrealistic? Is it spot on?
Well, never trust a computer with analytical data, what it spurts out, because like Mitch says, it's not played on a computer and it's not played on paper, it's played on grass, essentially. Yeah. And I said this last week or even on yesterday, that it has to be a collective. It has to be a collective effort and a collective want and consistency of picking up points. I know that sounds like a Steve Bruce phrase, but at the same time, the recruitment of points, either be a draw Chelsea, 3 points at home against West Ham and Everton, and maybe a point on the road against Fulham and a victory at home against Spurs. So that doesn't look too bad, does it? That's a 6-game unbeaten run right there. And plus winning at Blackburn, winning against Wolves, so they've just pushed it to 8, and and then that builds confidence for the rest of the latter the business end of the season, as we all know. And I think it is attainable, but like again, what Mitch said, it's up to the players, it's up to the coaching staff if they really want to get into Europe, if they really want to push high and finish the best position possible. Yes, if we fall short, we fall short, but as long as you can say within yourself or within the group as a team, if we give it a good old crack at a push, a European push, and a cup final potential, I think they can hold their heads held high in doing that and for that venture. It's all about the adventure and it's all about the experience for them to go forward. And that'll build into next season. It's not just about now. We can't look at it just about now. It's about, okay, big run at the end of the season. Granted, we've had relegation scraps and things like that. And if you look at it, the Leicester story, for your argument's sake, they were fighting relegation left and right. And then all of a sudden they go and win a league the following year. But that was all built on a year before. That was all built on things that they experienced that they probably didn't want to go through again. And I think with the December that was, I think that'll probably hurt the players more than anything, because they didn't perform, they didn't do what they were required to do. So I think it's very attainable. I think we'll finish 5.5 if we can do that. I think we'll be finishing 5th or 6th, somewhere around in there.
So the supercomputer's right, George, says Kev, and most of the lads seem optimistic. Are you optimistic?
Well, aren't I always about Newcastle United? I don't think 5th or 6th out of the way. We are capable of doing that run, having that run, because we've done it before. And if Saturday is any evidence to go by, we're already started motoring in that direction, because Saturday was such an improved performance against a good Wolves team that's hardly lost away from home. And yet we made them look ordinary on Saturday. So another few performances like that, and is the lads that are slowly but surely coming back. the big one to get back for me is Pope. I want to see Pope between the sticks again. Not that Dubravka's necessarily let we're down that badly, but there's just a bit more about the back four or 3 or 4 or 5 when he's there. And yeah, I want to see Nick Pope back between the sticks. But no reason why we shouldn't aim for 5th, never mind 6th, and go on a run to achieve it. That we've got nobody to play now who we aren't capable on the day of beating. Nobody. And we've just got to make our minds up. That's what we're going to do. And I'm not entirely sure that we won't progress in the FA Cup either. I've got an awful feeling we're going to sneak a result at the Etihad as well. So that's where my confidence is at the moment, and it was helped by some of the things I saw on Saturday. I've got to say, the way they work as a unit again, like we were used to last year, that hasn't happened for a week or two. So yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
I mean, it just depends. George is saying if the cup finals between the 2 and Liverpool, do we automatically qualify for the UEFA? It just depends on what's happened with everybody else and where they have finished in different competitions. It's so complicated. It's a lot of ifs and buts. I guess that's the way to look at it. Want to finish off on Sparky's question, which was, if Minte does go on loan next season, would you like to see him go to another Premier League side to get him up to speed when he rejoins us? Interesting question. Obviously on loan at Feyenoord, it's turned out to be a really good loan move for Jan Kuba. He's had 18 appearances. He scored 6 goals. He scored 3 in his last 2. He's in a rich vein of form. Scored in a derby. George, talk about him going back out on loan again next season. Would you loan him to a Premier League team to get more experience in this league and see if he's capable of scoring goals at this level?
If he's ready for Newcastle United, he should be ready. I wouldn't be looking to send him out alone at all. He'd be sitting on that bench, and even if he just gets onto a cameos, he'd be part of the squad, and I'd be playing him into the team as quickly as I could. The little bits of video I've seen on TV and other places of him in Holland, it'd been absolutely great. Although I've got to say his headbutt the other day was a bit exaggerated, but never mind. It's nice to see he's got a bit of spirit as well. You know, he'll fight back. But this loan thing's great. But look at young Miley. Look at young Miley. A yard of pace on Lewis Miley at 17, and he would be a world beater, not just a good player. Are we going to loan him out next year? I hope to goodness not. So Minty should be ready for us, even if it's only as a bit player. He should be working into the squad and doing it for us. I would not send him out for loan again. Look at the poor lad that went to Scotland, the Australian lad. You know, he's only had less than half an hour's football. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I mean, that's something Shola should have been sorting out, but never mind. But no, Minty wouldn't go on another loan for me. He'd be part of the squad and getting ready to be introduced to the squad if he's that good.
He's scoring goals not on a regular basis, Kev, but I mean, you know, he's in the infancy of his career. Would he suit another loan? A lot of people in the chat are saying Championship might be preferable.
I wrote down a promoted club in from the Championship. That's what I would possibly send him, but it would all depend on his pre-season. It would all depend on how he comes back, from a break and like what Elliot Anderson done. Has he got his own fitness plans? Has he got all this? Has he got all what he needs to do away from the game? What's his mentality like when he gets back into the training ground and Eddie Howe sees him week 1, week 2, and all the testing that to do? Is he ready to go? But you could. There's caveats within the potential loan thing of, not playing against us and this and that. You don't send him into a top half club. I would send him into something like, again, a top end Championship or one of the 3 promoted sides, because I think that'll give him a bit of another learning curve or learning experience in the Premier League or fighting for a position. But again, agree with George. If he's ready, he's ready. That it's one of those ones. But the main person who makes that decision is Eddie Howe. Does he feel like he's ready? Because he looks like he's doing very well out there in Holland. I believe he'll be, I think, final playing tonight. So I'll have a watch of that and see if he actually plays. And he's scoring goals, not for fun, but he's chipping in. You know, he's chipping in and he's doing, because he got a bit of stick off their coach because he wasn't playing. He was walking around and this and that. But I think his mentality's changed a little bit. So again, it just depends how he comes back after the summer break. Then in our regime of pre-season, and then I think we'll go from there. But it would be disappointing to see him go out alone. But again, if he goes, he goes, and I'll put him into not a better side than Feyenoord, but somewhere which is going to make him stronger, make him, you know, bulkier and more English ready, essentially.
Okay, what's your thoughts, Mitch, on Yankuba Minteh?
I think the concept of sending them to the Championship to toughen them up is a bit old-fashioned for me. The lads played Champions League football for Feyenoord. What's he going to learn on a wet Wednesday night at Rotherham? That's going to help us. You know, if we're looking to be playing Champions League on a regular basis. I'm sure Matt Ritchie and Joe Linton can teach him how to get toughened up on the training ground. I'm sure Matt Ritchie would quite happily boot him up the arse every day if that's what they felt he needed to be toughened up. There's loads of different ways to do that. I think the question is he ready to be introduced to our group and brought in a... Well, look, we've seen how Miley's come in. Almost to his fault, whereby he's played more games than he ever would have thought of this season, because out of necessity. And he's shown how quickly a young man can adapt to the Premier League. Well, imagine that in a more controlled environment, with fewer injuries, being able to be scattered in off the bench, you know, and being told, say, for example, if it's effectively a dead rubber and we're 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go, to say, right, go on, have fun, enjoy it. So, you know, it's one of those sort of, it depends on what that player needs, what they think that player needs in terms of development. But if it is a loan, I would be very comfortable with him going back to playing for a top team in Holland, because I think you'll learn just as much, if not more there than you will anywhere else at the moment. But he's young players do tend to sort of perform in patches, and that's very much what he's done for them. And he's certainly, I think we're getting back, I'm almost sure, a better player than was sent. So, job done. And then I think it's up to him in the pre-season to make a statement to say, well, I'm not just happy to be sent off on loan. I want to be playing with the big boys. But that's on him.
Stu, are you with the same thought pattern as us? You know, maybe he should, if he's good enough, he should stay at the club, or do you think, you know, I mean, I think Mitch makes a valid point, but he's not going to learn a great deal, is he? Going out on loan and playing at a lesser standard when he's been playing in the Champions League.
No, you're right. Which Championship club would you want him at? Mitch is bang on. He says for him, he'd see it as a step down. He's playing European football. I think it's quite obvious that he'll come back pre-season. They'll sound him out, and if they think he's developed enough physically, and he'd be able to cope with the demands of the Premier League, or even like playing cup games, etc. And if that doesn't halt his progress, you know, the good thing about Eddie Howe is he does have the players' welfare at heart, and he always tries to do the best for the players. And I think that's what helps him gain the respect he's got from the group. So for me, put in a Championship team, or like a team like Everton, because they could well be in the Championship. I don't see it. I think for him, if we're not going to keep him for next season, I think we should be looking to extend his contract by an extra year and send him back to what he knows, and that way he'll grow better. Send him back to Feyenoord if we're not going to keep him. Give another year of becoming more accustomed to the dark arts of centre halves, because he's not a surprise anymore for that league. So sometimes they say the second season is the hardest season. So if he comes through that with flying colours, he'd be then at the age and of the strength to make an impact for us. We don't need him just floating around the squad and not getting games every weekend, and something has been dropped into the reserves team or the youth teams. he'd be far better off where he is. And then, like I said, developing physically and more tactically aware, and then bring him back for the season after. That would just be my opinion of how it's done. But there was a question regarding Pope, when is he back? I can say with the greatest of certainty, we'll definitely see the Pope at Easter.
Hey! Wah, 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 wah. Religious jokes. Yeah, we've had a couple of nights. Al-Walid, Yankuba Minteh, would you like to see him play a part at Newcastle next season?
Well, actually, I saw him in the AFCON, I believe, in some games of Africa Cup, and he did great with the games, with great players. And I saw sometimes the goals he scored for Feyenoord, and once he scored, most of the comment on Twitter, they said, "Oh, let's bring him back. Let's bring him." This is, I think, for me, it depends on the signings. It depends on the signing in the summer. If we get professional players, maybe he should stay maybe for another year. But if we still with the if we're still with Almiron and other players, let's bring him. Okay, great stuff, lads. Thanks for giving up an hour of your time for Geordies here, Geordies there. Thanks to everybody in the chat, and thanks to Stu's mods. You've made them all smile tonight, Stu. I'll be back tomorrow.
Well done. Well done.
I shall be back 6 o'clock tomorrow with Sid and with Rob for Talk of the Tune. Look forward to seeing you guys then. Take care, lads. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Be easy.